think it was just an evolution. It happened over years, but I think, copying different people is a process by how you develop your own thing. You copy this person, you copy that person, and at some point you take all those mimicking other people and you put it together and create your own recipe. But it's a process over the years.
That's Eric Johnson. I'm Jamie Green, and this is Trading Fours.
I'm going to Kansas City, here I come. Oh yeah, I'm going to.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm your host Jamie Green, and this is episode 111. Today's episode is brought to you by Flatwater Acoustic Duo. Yes, that's right, my own acoustic duo. We're running a special 20% off for your private party bookings if you use the code Trading4s. You must live within the greater Kansas City region. You must book the show before January 1st, 2023. And some other rules apply, but nothing too draconian. Look down in the show notes for more details. We love playing private parties, people. High risk for yours. Okay. If I'm being 100% honest here, I love all my conversation with all types of musicians. It's a great way for me to learn about others and be exposed to their music that I might not be aware of. Several of my former guests, I am now big fans of their music just because I got a chance to talk to them. And that's really great. But I am a guitarist at heart. I love the guitar, and it's something that brings me great joy. I've been plugging along over 35 years now trying to get better, and it inspires me, and it perplexes me, and sometimes it really frustrates me. And today's guest is a great example of all those emotions when I hear him play. Back in the 1980s, when I was just first starting out on guitar, I came across a cassette of a guy named Eric Johnson. I had no idea who he was. There was no internet. So you made a lot of snap purchases just by looking at the album cover. And in this case, it was a blonde guy with spiked hair holding a old Strat in profile. So I figured, what the hell? It was worth a purchase. Instantly, I heard something different from all the other guitarists I'd explored up to that point. I found it hard to quantify at the time, but as I developed as a guitarist, I was better able to analyze his technique, the incredible arpeggios, the hybrid picking, the string skipping, the mind-blowing fast solos where he picked every single note, and of course, his phenomenal tone. It's hard to carve out your own distinctive sound, but Eric Johnson had done it. Yes, you could hear the influences of Hendrix, Clapton, Wes Montgomery, Chet Atkins, and many more. But Eric had taken all those influences and made it his own. He truly is an original. In my basement man cave, there are two large posters of guitarists hanging up. One is of Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course, of his cover of Couldn't Stand the Weather. But the other one is Eric Johnson's Ob Via Musicum. So yes, Eric has been a big influence on me for a very long time. Getting the chance to talk to Eric Johnson was a bucket item list for me. I was allotted 30 minutes to chat with him, and I stuck hard to that out of respect to him. But if I could have, I would have talked to him for hours. Because I'm a guitar geek. He's got 2 new albums coming out here in late July, and that's what we mostly focused on. He zoomed in from his beautiful home in Austin to talk all about the new album, his collaborations, and he assures me at the end to keep playing the guitar. That alone made this special. So, I tried to not fanboy too hard, but it was hard, man. Super excited to share this fun conversation with one of my guitar gods. Let's get started. Here's my conversation with Eric Johnson. I think a good place to start, people are going to think I'm crazy, Eric, because you're all about guitar, but I want to talk about the piano because this is this new album that's coming out on July 29th, double album, 18 tracks. There's so many lush, beautiful piano parts on here. And
well, thank you.
Whether it's To Be Alive or My Faith in You or all these great songs. So I know that you've talked in the past about how guitar players and musicians in general should play piano first because it really opens it up. Can you expand a little bit on that? Like how does it help you as a songwriter and as a performer?
Well, I think it's kind of it's a universal instrument in that you can see the whole orchestration in front of you with all the keys, so you can work on rhythm or melody or bass parts all at the same time, which you can do on guitar too. It's just that it's laid out so clearly on piano, and I just happen to love the way piano sounds. So
Yeah, it's a gorgeous instrument. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I took jazz guitar lessons, and I started out on piano,
Oh, did you? Yeah.
and I
Uh-huh.
took jazz guitar lessons. And so when we were starting to do jazz theory, even though I was physically holding a guitar in my hand, I was in my mind picturing piano and the
Yeah,
keys on a
right.
piano. Do you do some of that as well?
I do actually. Yeah. I kind of relate to guitar through the piano.
Well, this is it's been really interesting. You're my 111th guest. I've had so many people on, and like, what did you do
Wow.
during COVID? It's like kind of like, what did you do on your summer vacation? Correct. And it seems
Yeah,
like this was what you did during COVID,
I
right?
did. Yes, I did. Mhm.
26 tracks. Was it something that you did daily just to kind of get out of your head and let the world go away? What was your process?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I worked on it almost every day. I came home in March of 2020 because the last part of the tour got canceled. And I was trying to figure out what to do because nobody was hanging out at all. So I just started pulling stuff out of the closet that I never finished. Some of it was barely started, some of it was completely finished. Um, and then towards the end of it, I ended up cutting some new tracks as well to add to the record. But yeah, it was just something it was really eerie at the first because it was like there was just no traffic in town. Everybody was just staying at home. And fortunately, my studio was close to my house. So I would just drive over there by myself and work.
It probably was comforting in a way.
Yeah, it was. Gave me something to concentrate on during a weird time.
Well, because I think of all the things that musicians, you have bad gigs or things get canceled or somebody gets sick or there's a million things, but the whole world shutting down. I don't think anybody could even imagine that.
No, I know it was pretty bizarre. Yeah.
So I want to ask, and I'm not, I promise my non-guitar friends, I'm not going to get way into the weeds about, your tone or let's talk things, but I'm interested. You did these 29 mini lessons during COVID, correct? It was like right
Yeah.
toward the beginning. And I know what everybody else got out of it because I had friends like texting me, like, did you see that lesson and check it out and stuff like that? What did they do for you, Eric? What did you find? What did you get out of doing that for folks?
Well, I mean, I thought I was glad. I wanted to do something and I thought the food bank thing, people were having trouble getting food and because they weren't getting properly paid for jobs, a lot of them. And so I just felt like it was a way I could contribute and thought maybe, my little excerpts might help people musically. And every time you ever do a lesson for somebody, you always learn something too. You hear yourself talking or you clarify something you need to think about.
Absolutely. No, I think I teach beginners because it's probably the only people that can benefit from my help.
Okay.
But my former jazz guitar teacher I was talking about earlier, he said it'll make you a better player.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you're gonna work on songs you never would have picked up yourself. I'm doing AC/DC
Exactly.
tunes, I'm doing stuff,
Totally.
and also how do you translate it? How do you make it clear to somebody?
Right. That's true.
It's almost-
Yeah, it puts you on the spot to kind of to explain it all. I agree. Yeah.
So the last time I saw you in concert, Ariel opened for you, and she's fabulous. Can we talk about this track you did together? I thought this was gorgeous. The colors of this.
It's a track. It's a track that we cut about 3 years right before COVID. We cut it, and we cut it with just piano and voice. It was just a full take that we did, and then I went back and Tom Breckline added brush drums and Roscoe Beck added some bass to it. So yeah, it was just something. It's a song that I had written like years and years ago, but I never had lyrics for it. So Ariel wrote the lyrics to it and sang it and did a really beautiful job.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous track. Was Roscoe playing a fretless bass on it or an upright bass? Has kind of a really jazzy bass sound.
Upright bass. Yeah, he actually played upright bass on several of the tunes on the record.
Was that a first, or has he done that in the past?
Oh no, he plays a lot of upright bass. He does. Yeah.
Well, I love the whole album, but that's one of those nice little surprises as you're going through and listening to them, and it almost like it's not derivative Joni Mitchell, but almost kind of a Joni Mitchell vibe with her vocals and the chords, because Joni came from that jazz background, and all those wonderful chords that she would always put in.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she's one of my heroes. I love her stuff.
Oh, she's awesome. I mean, I know Blue just had its 50th anniversary, and just to put that on anytime.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Just
that's great.
So, Eric, my mom is a native Texan. I'm here in Kansas City, but I have been to Austin, Texas a million times because my favorite aunt and uncle lived there way out in South Austin off of on Manchac. And you're kind of a unicorn, a native Austinite musician. There's tons of musicians in Austin, moved to Austin. Can you talk a little bit about the scene when you first were coming up and how much this town has changed? I was just there in March. It's almost like Southern California now, from what I remember it as a kid.
It's totally different than it was. Well, it always had a lot of cultural stuff going on, a lot of gigs. I think it's just kind of a melting pot of the Southwest. You know, a lot of people gravitated to Austin from all over Texas, some from Louisiana and stuff, and Mexico even. So there was always different styles of music, and I think they all converged and just created hybrids of styles and stuff. But there was always a vibrant music scene here, even when I was a kid.
So who would have been playing? Like, who would have? You're like, and is it one of the iterations of Antones you go into? Like, where is it? The world headquarters, Armadillo World? Is it Threadgills? Where are you going?
When I was really, really, really young, it was the Vulcan with Johnny Winters, and then you had groups like Georgetown Medical Band with Johnny Richardson on guitar. You had the Chain Gang with John Stahaley on guitar, Lavender Hill Express. There was all these really good bands that had really good guitar players, Jim Mings in New Atlantis. And then later on, of course, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Derek O'Brien and Jimmy Vaughan and Sleep at the Wheel and tons of great bands, you know, and fusion bands too in the 70s, like 47 Times Their Own Weight and Passenger and stuff. So it was just always something going on, a lot of stuff.
And I'm guessing, go ahead.
I went to Armadillo many times and played Armadillo many times. Yeah.
I'm guessing it informed you as who you became as an artist. How this melting pot of musical styles, different people, like you said, even influences from Mexico, some of the Cajun influences from Louisiana, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you become yourself. I know people have talked to you before. I watched a Rick Beato interview, which I thought was fabulous.
Yeah, he's great.
Isn't he cool? What he's doing for people, it's so much fun to watch and have him deconstruct things. Totally. But you're playing. I know you kind of said, you know, I'm kind of a bunch of different people, and then you take it to the next level. When did you figure out that you had your own voice? That it, you know, obviously you had your influences, but you had taken it to your own level and for your own person musically.
I think it was just an evolution. You know, it happened over years, but I think, you know, copying different people is a process by how you develop your own thing. You copy this person, you copy that person, and at some point you take all those, you know, mimicking other people and you put it together and create your own recipe. You know, but it's a process over the years.
Well, it is. It's interesting too. You know, I think people can debate and argue a little bit about like rock. You know, you're a Hendrix guy or you're a Beck guy or whatever. But Wes Montgomery is one of those people in the jazz world. It seems like everybody agrees. He's
the best,
right?
I mean, you know, there's some great jazz players, but he's my favorite because of his heart and soul. You know, and his tone. You know.
Well, that crazy thumb thing he could do. I mean, his thumb, I'd heard he had a callus that was basically so hard that it was almost like a pick, but those beautiful tones he could get. And just how you watch some of that stuff on YouTube, which is when YouTube's cool.
Yeah.
Over in Europe. And what he was, and apparently he didn't know music theory, which is amazing to me.
He learned by ear. Yeah.
So you obviously have a very big theory background because like I said, I'd watched some of your lessons and stuff, and one of the ones, your mini lessons, and I'll put all this in the show notes, Eric, so people can check it out. And yes, you know, I donated here to the Kansas City Food Bank when I watch. But one of the things that you talked about, like you got to know every note on the guitar. some of these things, I think it just opens it up. It's like its own language, right? But if you can speak the language fluently, it really opens up your playing.
Right. Yeah. I'm not really a good theory guy. Pretty much play by ear too, but learning all the notes and learning why the notes sound the way they do when you put them together, whether it's by ear or by theory, that's important. I kind of do it by ear.
Did you ever take any guitar lessons, or was just you picked it up?
When I very first started playing guitar for a month or two, I took guitar lessons and I loved taking them. And I got grounded I was like 11 years old, and I got grounded by my parents for something. And one of the grounding things they did was, okay, no guitar lessons, because they know I loved them. So they said, no guitar lessons for a while. And I was so bummed because I loved it. But during that period, I went, well, let's see, I play piano. So what I'll do is I'll just sit down and take what I know on piano and transpose the guitar. And that's when I started trying to learn all the notes of the guitar. I sat down with the piano and I would just find all the notes on the guitar. And I just and then at that point, kind of started figuring out the guitar.